Well, let's crack on.
Yeah.
I suppose where I kind of wanted to start with this conversation was I was dwelling on the fact that both of us kind of live these wonderful but bizarre lives, and we do. I'm not sure your audiences know about this, know this about you, but you travel the world for a living occasionally.
Yeah.
And I just thought when I was heading down to Antarctica for 2 months at the start of January, what were the chances that I'd bump into a fellow folk addict in an airport and then spend 2 months talking about folk music in the middle of Antarctica?
Yeah.
Very low.
Well, very, very low. And I actually, when I was thinking about what we could talk about, I was thinking about when we first met, and we shared a minibus out to the plane,
Yeah.
and you were wearing, in fact, possibly even that hat, a kingfisher hat. And you know, I wasn't convinced I could meet a bigger kingfisher fan, and there you were with your
There I am.
kingfisher hat on the way to Antarctica. Yeah, massive
Yeah.
fanboy.
Yeah.
Um,
I suppose, like, again, dwelling on what we talked about, we sort of made friends slowly, and then we spent most of our evenings together for what was the better part of 3 weeks. And a lot of
Yeah.
the conversation was around these ideas of, I guess, folk music, writing, and nature connection, and how these things are all intrinsically linked. So, yeah, I suppose we should talk about it.
yeah, I think
I mean, as by way of introduction, like, because I think there's a lot of people here who may be following you on social media. I know for a fact, 'cause I'm seeing some names of close friends. There's a few people here who know me, but
that's cool.
rapid introduction. I'm Matt. I'm an adventure and expedition filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and I spend a lot of time traveling the world telling stories in far-flung places. That's the short version. Your turn.
And my name's Paddy, and I'm a musician from Cornwall. I I struggle to make a living out of my music. So I have I have a proper job as well. And I work as a doctor, and I specialize in expedition medicine. And when I was much younger, I worked as a mountain guide, and now my medicine really overlaps with that world of high altitude climbing and polar tourism, I guess, or expedition medicine.
Yeah.
And I was providing the medical cover for an expedition down in Antarctica. And Matt, you were filming that expedition for Netflix, and that's how we met. And you are very creative and have this extraordinary way of looking at things in a multifaceted way that is fascinating. And you're also a massive folk music nerd, and I guess that's really we identified that and spent a lot of time talking about folk music. And I think something we'd both perhaps like to talk about now is what you see the overlap between outdoor spaces and music in general, but specifically folk music.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I find that really easy to answer or talk about because I should plug it really, but I run the Adventure podcast, which I started for fun and has now spiraled out of control. But it's almost badly named because it sounds like it's about Red Bull and wingsuit flying. But in fact, and maybe it was at the start, in my 20s, I wanted to climb mountains and I wanted people to think I was brave and strong because, spoiler alert, I was insecure and didn't know who I was. But as I've sort of gotten older, well, my mid 20s, let's say, like 10, 12 years ago, I just realized why I was traveling, and it was all about connection to people and place. And I loved meeting like different and new to me cultures. And really, if you look at what folk music is, I mean, this is an egg sucking lesson, but folk is music of the people, for the people, by the people. There's no barriers to it. Obviously, you get trad folk, which is, very difficult to play. All right for people like you, but I struggle.
No, but I think it is difficult to play. I mean, funnily, this week I was going to go. I don't play in I very rarely play in folk sessions, and that's something I've sort of bullied myself a little bit about, because I think it's a bit intimidating if you don't know the repertoire and you turn up to a pub and there's 20 people playing and you don't know the songs. It can be it can be quite intimidating, and I sort of feel pretty solid as a cellist, or even if I were to turn up with a banjo or a mandolin. Um, but but it's still really intimidating when you don't know the pieces. And in fact, a couple of days ago I messaged a friend to say, to ask about how to make it, how I could come along and not feel like a complete idiot. So,
Yeah, but that, I mean, that's this is a tangent, but that blows my mind because you're, classically trained and an expert cellist. The fact that you enjoy the kind of the much lower end, like folk music and shanty, which is where my heart beats hardest. Yeah, I think that's something that you're English, so you can't admit it. Like, you are classically trained to an extremely high
yeah,
standard. So realistically, you can walk in and play those tunes with a little bit of practice, or maybe none. But I think that the back to the original point is, like, this music was written by people who weren't genius, talented musicians. Often it's simple music, it's simple words. Those songs are designed to be sung and repeated. And I think that's where I've really that's a really good comment someone's just made, that classically trained can stifle you with improvisation.
I
If you're a
think
bit too,
that is completely the truth. And
mm,
I was talking to someone this week about that exact thing, um, about I remember now, I'm 51 now, and I was in a piano lesson, in a like music lesson, playing the piano when I was at school, primary school. I was probably 10 or something. And I remember being told off by the teacher because I was improvising. And it was a piece that I still, in fact, funnily, was playing a little bit of it today. And and I remember just being like, why is that less valid
yeah.
than a sort of, getting the note perfectly in order as per the manuscript? And I don't really know why that conflict is there, but it definitely is there. And that's really beaten out of you in classical, can be beaten out of you in classical music. And I think that's such a shame. And it took, I spent most of my 20s relearning how to play, or a different approach to playing, so that I could play folk music and more structurally, I guess, and a lot of the time technically slightly simpler music. But it's amazing how difficult it is to transition from classical music to non-classical music, or how hard it was for me anyway.
But I think that's so relevant with the folk conversation, because then you've got
Yeah.
people like me who are not even passionate amateurs. Like, well, amateur is Latin, isn't it? Of For the love of something. So anyone can be an amateur. But um, I did a trip out to the west coast of Ireland with Emma, who's in this chat. Actually, she's here listening tonight. Who's one of my best friends, and she loves folk music too. We sat in like fiddly diddly pubs in the west coast of Ireland, drinking Guinness and listening to the talented musicians. And then later on in the evening, we're sat in this cottage on an island in the middle of nowhere, no power, no running water, no nothing. And the music comes out, and Emma sings, I sing, we all sing. And there's, I have no talent or skill,
You're
but
underselling yourself there,
well,
actually.
no, I mean, I can't really sing. I can enough to, like, I'm really self-conscious of it. But in that environment where, simple songs that don't have complex tunes, I'm married to a classically trained soprano, as you know,
Yeah,
but I
that
didn't
can't
feel,
be good for your ego if you're
no, it's
singing.
not, no, but I didn't feel self-conscious about singing, and I sing all the time, and I'd love to sing more. If there was a pub down the road, I'd go along and sing
Yeah.
sea shanties and folk tunes. And I think, we spoke a lot when we were together in Antarctica about this revival that we see happening now. And I think folk is not, I think revival is the right word, right? Because it didn't die. It was almost like laying dormant. Like there were lots of people still listening to it. There's folk festivals, there's people playing all the time. There are amazing bands who are making a living out of folk music, but it feels like younger generations are listening now. And I think that's what's really inspiring.
Yeah. And it's not just in, so something we've talked about a lot is if you look at the audiences of bands like Kingfisher and Amble, the audiences are so young, they're in their late teens and 20s. And that is so different from, you think of the audiences at folk festivals being my sort of age and above, or a large percentage of them are the prime of their life.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then you've got these bands, that are drawing massive crowds, have huge sort of streaming numbers, demonstrating how popular they are, and that's predominantly with a young audience, and that's amazing.
But I'll report back in 2 months because I'm going to see Kingfisher, obviously, and then Humble. But my wife and I went to see Mumford in December, I think, and I'd say we were about the average age. Like I'm late 30s.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you're pointing out, when you talk about the audiences, what we don't mean is like we've got access to the data.
Yeah.
Like when we're watching the YouTube videos of these sellout concerts, it's majority people in their 20s.
Yeah. Another band like that is the Tours, who are a Devon band, and they're three brothers, and they draw huge crowds, and their audience is so young. And it's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. The other, and it's not just audiences. I notice it here. There's in up the coast, 2 villages from my village is a once a week shanty night in one of the pubs, and there's lots of people singing there in their 20s, which is amazing.
Wow, I wouldn't get.
Yeah, and it's the same in Falmouth. There's 2 folk sessions, and there's one down west as well in far west Cornwall. There's lots of musicians in their 20s in those that go to those nights as well, and that's amazing. And I really think that has changed in the last 5 years. I definitely, so I've felt when I've turned up to things like that in the past, I've often felt the youngest, even when I was in my 40s, and that is just, it feels like it's a very different crowd now, and I think that's an amazing thing.
See, that's interesting because you've proved what I was about to say wrong, which is I wonder if it's just that the young performers have always been there and haven't disappeared, but it's just that the audience is changing. But it sounds like you're saying there is a revival of performers as well.
I think so. Well, in that sort of, I don't play a massive amount of trad music, but the trad sessions I have been to, I think that's reflected in that. I think of musicians of all ages. It's hard to generalize, isn't it? But and also, I was thinking about in my 20s when I was playing a lot of music with a lot of different musicians, and everyone was in their 20s. But that's probably because I was just a 20-year-old. There's no insight there at all.
But I think that so much of this is, well, actually, there's a comment there, Shan, which people are saying they agree with. It's people are craving authenticity. We're all craving authenticity. I mean, that's a word I use all the time in my work, which is always like a dying word. We've used it so much. But I think that's what's happened. And I think to use a quick example without going into story time, like the song that really made Kingfisher famous was Killer, which, about the little town in Southern Ireland and the hurling scene. And, you can go and Google it for yourself and read the story if you don't know it, if you're listening to this. I won't tell you the full story, but they wrote a song sort of as a joke for the local hurling club. And it went viral, to use the bus phrase, and then it was number 1 in Ireland, and it just propelled them into stardom. but they weren't a one-hit wonder, and they've gone on to write the most amazing music. You know, I listen to them every day. And I suppose 2 points, one's personal and one's a kind of something I've noticed or read a lot about. The personal side is their music just really, really resonates with me. It's partly like the kind of trad tenor banjo thing, and that just like connection. It feels earthy, it feels real, it feels raw. But I think why it really worked in Ireland is a lot like in England. You know, I'm not qualified to comment on Ireland, but like there's this disconnect from nature and from like national pride. I'm very conscious of, careful of using the words national and pride together. Like feeling proud of where you're from. And I think we've got a lot to be concerned with, you know, at home.
Mm.
But that's not what we're talking about today. Like, I want to feel proud of where I'm from. I want to be able to go and sit in a pub with my kids and like enjoy feeling proud of somewhere. And I think what Kingfisher have done for the Irish youth is make them feel proud to be Irish. And the idea that one song can do that and have
Yeah,
everybody chanting it in stadiums is so unbelievably powerful. And it's a folk tune that's done it, not a
yeah,
Taylor Swift pop song.
yeah. But do you think that's because the horizons of the song are so specific and so small that you can put yourself in that song almost regardless of your background?
Yeah,
I mean, I asked
exactly.
that as a
I mean,
question. I kind of really feel that's the genius of that song is
well, to make you uncomfortable, I feel that with your music. Like that's what that does. Is I feel like your music was written for me when I listen to it, and that's what's special about music, right? Is I'm not thinking about anybody else listening to it. I love Cornwall. You know, my grandfather's Cornish, was Cornish, and there's a whole story there that you know, amazing story. And I feel really connected to that place when I listen to your music. I'm transported. And that's the power of it. And I think you're right. Like the most liked comment on one of the live performances of Killer on YouTube is, this song makes me proud to be Irish and I'm from Norway.
yeah.
And like, obviously, very good, funny,
That's great, isn't it?
but it sums it up.
Yeah,
Like it just, you can put
yeah,
yourself in that place.
yeah,
It works.
yeah. I think, yeah, being homesick for a place you've never been to, that is, I mean, that is the greatest, I don't know, music. Yeah, I feel like that's a real folk music ambition.
Yeah.
And if somehow you could bottle that, that really encapsulates a lot of the emotion of folk music to me. Um,
Totally. But do you not think, playing with the idea here, and I'm happy to be wrong, as you know, like, I think this connection between folk and the natural world, which is the thing I'm particularly interested in, is that so many of not just the older tunes, the new songs, they're really rooted in the natural world, but also like the changing of the seasons, weather, loss, the ship that went down in the storm kind of vibes, or community, or longing for a home. I mean, someone's just put their past life connection. That summed it up
yeah,
for me. It's almost that. I mean, Kingfisher called their album halcyon. I was about to use the
yeah,
word, but like when I listen to that music, it's like I'm transported to a halcyon time. That kind of simpler time before the internet existed, and I could get on trains to London, and the idea that I could just grow my vegetables in my garden and eat with the seasons, and just eat food that I'd grown and hang out with no more than 60 people who lived within 5 miles of me.
yeah,
Like slightly more tribal, atavistic kind of lifestyle.
yeah.
I'm craving it and trying to replicate it now. And I sense that if you've joined to listen to this conversation, you're probably in some ways similar.
I there's two things for me that really link to that. One is musical, and one is just an observation about where I'm from here.
Yeah.
In my village, there's 300 people, and everybody knows each other. And we're, I guess, a satellite village of a bigger village that's 3,000 people and a few miles away. Um, and the friends I've got that are the happiest are the ones who have stayed here and haven't got lost seeking other places and are still very close with their parents and their families, very close by, and have a very local, linked, supportive community.
Totally.
And I feel like, and I know I've bored you with this before, so I apologize for that. But and maybe it's a personal affliction, but I really suffer with the grass is greener on the other side. And I don't think that's always the truth. And maybe that's getting a bit older. And so I'm not so driven to go away traveling to look for that greener grass. But I really notice it in the friends here who have stayed very local for most of their adult life, that they seem to be the happiest. And the other thing I wanted to touch on from a comment that relates to what you were saying is that I feel like, or I wonder if, when you think about American folk music and American relationship to Celtic music, I think that's really um, noticeable. Or I wonder if that's noticeable. Clearly, I'm not American, but I feel like there is a cultural heritage or a link somehow, looking back at their ancestry or where their sense of belonging is coming from, and maybe a relationship with that regard to Celtic music, be it Irish or Cornish or Scottish, but that here we don't see that as readily because we take it for granted. We take it for granted that, you know, I know your grandfather's buried here, but likewise, we're it's very easy to sort of overlook that sense of where you come from. And I do think that folk music offers that sort of route to where you come from, or it can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just playing with the idea here, but agreeing with you. But I think it offers so many things. But two of the things it offers, one is a sense of place and home and community, and the other is a sense of adventure.
Yeah.
So that kind of that yearning for the sea, let's go, let's get on the boat and let's see what we can find, or let's head down the trail and seek our fortune in gold. And they're all of those kind of romantic notions of adventure. And I suppose you're covering both the ends of the spectrum there, like that we've both experienced. The young person setting out for a life of adventure, and then getting a bit older. For both of us, having children was a
Yeah.
big one. And for me, I've written something that I haven't put on Substack yet called "Happiness Has Killed My Career," which is obviously a tongue-in-cheek title, but I just don't want to go away anymore.
Yeah.
I like being here. I told you the other day that 2 months in Antarctica, what a dream experience. I got more of a kind of whatever the chemistry is. You're a doctor. Is it oxytocin?
Yeah. Yeah.
I got more of a hit,
Dopamine. Yeah.
dopamine, oxytocin
Yeah.
hit, from taking my son to the woods, 100 meters that way
Yeah.
when I got home than at any time in Antarctica. And that call to home. But I also think folk is protest. Like there's so much, whether it's the fringes of folk, the Billy Braggs, the modern day, like the Frank Turners. I played you a song about somebody from London wanting to buy a house in the Cotswolds in this song. And the guy basically explains why he won't sell it to a load of Londoners who just want to buy it from him. Like, do
Yeah.
the skin I kind of spent to build this with my hands and all of that kind of stuff. It's anti-establishment, and it's raw, and it's rooted. And I think for me particularly, it's working class often.
Yeah.
And that growing up where I grew up in a now dead fishing town, Grimsby, as bad as it gets in England, really, that's really important to me.
Yeah.
It's not gate kept.
And that comes back to it being simple, potentially simple in nature, in structure often, and in musical key choices and in instrument choices, that it's more accessible. And if you have um, something that can be strummed out on any instrument in straightforward keys, the chances of lots of people being able to sing it together in the pub is a lot higher than if it's not, and that's the same for shanty music as well.
Is that partly because it feels accessible? Like I don't want to, let's not turn this into a therapy session, but you've commented on some of you, I hope you don't mind me sharing this.
Yeah,
It's too late
that's
to do,
fine.
but insecurities around singing versus
Yeah,
playing. And I think that's one of the things that isn't gate kept with folk, is you don't have to be, pick your pop star with the amazing voice. Use them as an
yeah,
example. Taylor Swift, whoever, let's pick the biggest in the world.
yeah.
You can just people can, I'm not saying you do this, but people can just sort of get away with it. Some of my favorite folk musicians, Jimmy Aldridge and Sid Goldsmith are two of my all-time favorites. They're not the most talented in the world. Jimmy's pretty amazing, but they get away with it. It sounds so real. It's the sort of thing you'd hear if you walked into a pub down the road. And
But
I think that's why it feels real.
that links to somebody's comment earlier on about authenticity,
Totally.
and it's so difficult to capture authenticity, I think, musically, because you have to tread a thin line between being authentic and having a slightly rough or rough around the edges voice, say, but being in tune and melodic so that it's nice to listen to. And there are, musicians that have both, I guess, and that's the gold in
Yeah.
folk sense, isn't it?
But I'm speaking, just from working in documentary film. The problem with authenticity is that so many people are trying to be authentic, which is it's kind of an oxymoron or a paradox. Like, you either are or you aren't. And I think that's one of the things that just made me fall in love with Kingfisher. I like the
Yeah.
music a lot. And I think we talked a lot about this, is watching their performance. I'm happy to share this. I'm a modern man. Watching their performance in Dublin, one of their first ever big live gigs, it made me cry. And I sat at home, kids were in bed, and I was just sat watching this on my own. And it wasn't the music necessarily that what was pushing me to tears. It was them. And you could just see that they were nervous when they came out. They're just three guys. They finished an engineering degree and were playing with music. And then it all just worked for them in the way that rarely happens. It was that you could just sense the deep passion and the humanity and the rawness of their emotions and their joy, like their shock.
Yeah.
People were singing their music back to them. That's what pushed me across the line. It wasn't the polished performance and all of that. That doesn't do it for me.
No, but I mean, it sort of helps that they're also incredible musicians,
For sure.
and he's got the most incredible voice, and yeah. So I mean, I think they are really unusual in that they have that
Yeah.
authenticity and don't seem to have lost that as they've got bigger. Maybe it doesn't feel like a front, does it? But and they also happen to write really intriguing songs, both from a lyric point of view and from a music point of view, and they are incredible performers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing, and that's I would say incredibly rare. I want to go back to a comment you said about people are either authentic or they're not, and I don't know. I don't think I agree with that.
Okay,
I
go on.
think I think that everybody is authentic. I just think that people are under, especially if they're trying to make it in music, uh, and any creative endeavor, I would say, people are under so much pressure to be something that maybe they lose themselves in trying to meet that expectation that's external. And
Yeah.
probably if you're younger, when you know you're most at risk of going down that road. But I think, yeah, I really think there's that external pressure, and particularly with social media, that you know, there's just so much external pressure on younger people. I think it must be incredibly difficult and incredibly tough. And
Yeah, I
so I
mean,
just wanted to challenge that sort of
no,
authenticity.
no, you're right to, and I think, yeah, I don't disagree with you. You're right to challenge it, and I think maybe I need to explain my. I think we agree. I think
Yeah,
what I'm really saying is like I'm not necessarily using it as a criticism. It's more that let's break the fourth wall.
yeah,
So I am hyper aware that lots of people are listening to this,
yeah.
but
I can't.
actually, but tonally,
Yeah,
this sort of conversation we were having in Antarctica,
yeah,
I'm having to actually, I've calmed down now, and I sit on stage for a living sometimes, but I still get nervous, and
yeah,
I had to just check myself in the first 5 minutes of this conversation to make sure I wasn't being performative.
yeah,
And I think when you're making music, writing music, performing music, it would be easy to create a mask that you could wear when you stepped on stage. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. You create a persona.
yeah,
And that's cool. But I think with folk, it doesn't work. And I think that's what I'm getting at is like, there's this, you can really tell when
yeah,
somebody is being their true self.
yeah,
That shock on stage when Eddie just can't believe that they're all singing Kill
yeah,
It Back to
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. I mean, I'm not. They are undeniably talented and charming and doing very well.
Yeah, yeah. Don't be
Uh,
jealous.
of course,
Uh,
I'm jealous.
Emma, previously mentioned Emma, just made a really good point
Yeah,
that it's something that she and I've known Emma for 10 years and she's one of my best
yeah,
friends, but the oral tradition of passing on stories, that's the origin of folk. And of
yeah,
course it did. I mean, they are just stories put to music, aren't they?
yeah,
Some of my favorite, I play them to my kids and I call them story songs. They don't have many choruses. They take us on a journey and they have a start, middle, and end. And I think that's the thing. Maybe I love stories. It's probably why I do what I do for a living. But most people like stories.
yeah,
Um, it's about as human as it gets. And being told stories is powerful. Telling stories is powerful. And yeah, I think stories are how we interpret the world. You know, it's why we read them to children. It's why children love them. I
yeah,
think that's what folk does better than almost any other kind of music. I can't think of a better type of music that tells stories in a literal sense.
yeah. I I would entirely agree with that. And in fact, just you know, personally, I often when I'm writing music, I struggle to find the line between because nearly always my songs are telling a story, but I sort of get lost in the songwriting process. And the songs that come most easily to me are the ones that I've got a very, very clear picture in my mind of what I'm trying to tell as a story or describe as a story. But but sometimes I get I get distracted along the way.
Can I ask you on that
Yeah.
front? So, are you writing because you have something to say and you need to get it out, or are you writing things you think people want to hear or need to hear? Because I think there is a big difference.
I am writing because I would be writing if no one listened. And I'm writing um, because I need to. I mean, it's just the very core of who I am. And I've said this to you before, but you know, if I lived on my own in a cave, I would be playing music in the cave. Um, I it's everything to me. It's my personal therapy. I nearly always write about things that deep mean something to me on a absolutely visceral level. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, a story that I know or hear from around here overlaps or encapsulates that feeling. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's the other. Most of the time, it's the other way around. And I don't think those are my better songs. Are I'm writing about something that's very personal to me, but I dress it up in a song because because I love and am obsessed with folk music, and that's the medium in which folk music's delivered.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I haven't asked you, this is
Yeah.
first time ever, is now I've forgotten it. And you were writing music because you've just explained it really well. You wanted to, you needed to, you had to, if you
Yeah.
were going to capable write. Now that lots of people are listening to your music, has that created a pressure to deliver something that is altering the original intention of just that self-therapy, self-expression?
Um, it has changed the way I record music,
How so?
um, because I used to do it so simply just for myself, just as a documentation and practice exercise, so I don't lose things in my mind, because I write all the time. So if I um, write a song and don't have a recording of it somewhere, I won't remember it a year or two later. Um, fun, yeah, Funnily, I was playing the piano earlier, and I was trying to remember something I'd written years and years and years ago, and I just couldn't find it anyway.
Well, I'm
Um,
just going to say what I'm
but
sure loads of people are thinking. Of course,
yeah,
you can play the piano.
you are.
Of course, you can also play the piano.
Oh, yeah. I'm not very good at that. Well, I used to play the piano lots, but I don't really play very much anymore. I used to write music on the piano um, up until my 20s, when, as I said, that was kind of when I was writing more classical music.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but then, but now I like, now I kind of have this way of playing the cello that's a bit more like playing a guitar. It's rhythmic. It makes writing music far more easy than in a more classical sense, although I still play melodic lines. But I want to come back to your question to answer, has it changed? It's changed the way I record it. So I just finished recording a song a couple of days ago that has got a lot of parts in it, which is amazing, and I think sounds absolutely incredible. And really, it's just me singing the various parts within a choir. So you have a choir in the background, which just sounds to my ear amazing, and links to the sort of sea shanty thing, um, and just creates this incredible wall of sound. And I would have never done that before, because I wouldn't. It's just not financially feasible to do that unless there's some return. I'd be writing the music and playing it to myself or to whoever would listen locally, but now I feel a pressure to actually have a quality recording that comes from the song, if that makes sense.
But that sounds like
Am I oversharing? I
there's
hope I'm
some negativity in there around the word pressure, and I think that we often use that word in negative. It can be a really good thing. I think a little bit of gentle
Yeah,
pressure is a good thing. Keeps us on our toes, forces us
yeah,
to level up a bit. But it sounds to me like you having an audience has almost like given you permission or forced you to become more creative and take it more seriously.
yeah, totally. I definitely take it more seriously now. I mean, this whole thing's a happy accident,
I
as
mean,
I've said.
Deborah's just said, to which those who are listening who know me will laugh, but we're here for the therapy. And I mean, let's not, but I speak a lot more about that stuff these days. And I've had a lot of therapy. I'm not the rough and tumble adventure guy that I think people think I am. Um, but it sounds like this therapy of yours is spiraling out of control in a really good way. Like you're having this opportunity to take something that you were doing for you because you needed to as a release, and now you're, dare I say, like helping other people with their therapy. There are a few comments that we glossed past that, oh, I'm sorry, but because people like the music, Paddy. People
Yeah.
find power in it. I find power in it. And what an amazing, I know you're English, can't take the compliment, but I couldn't either. But what a special and powerful thing to experience.
No, that's amazing. And of all the things, the the connections and the conversations I've had with people because of it has been totally mind blowing. I mean, honestly, overwhelming. The whole thing is overwhelming. But you said about therapy. You know, I'm the opposite of you. I've never had. Yeah, I have. You know, the idea of having therapy makes me go cold. The idea, so you know, my personal management of awfulness is uh, to lock it in a box, take it to the bottom of my emotional garden, dig a very deep hole and bury it, and preferably put bricks on top of it. But because of that, in my music is where those feelings go. And and the thing I think I find the most difficult, and I've said this to you before, is sharing that, because it's so personal, and um and that's something I wasn't expecting at all. And it's, you know, they say you own a song until you kind of record it and release it, and then it becomes everybody else's song, and it's quite a transition.
I think
This, and it's so short. You know, this has just happened since May last year. I mean, clearly I've been playing music all my life, but this, in you know, releasing music and sort of taking it a little bit more seriously from a promotion point of view, has just sort of blown up, and it's which is amazing, but it also feels like I'm sharing this part of my soul, and I wasn't expecting to do so. And most of the time it's totally fine, and it's been more than fine. It's been incredible and overwhelming, like I said. But sometimes, and I don't even mind if people are like, "You're a fucking dick, shut up," because then I'm like, "Well, yeah, whatever." Yeah, you know, that's probably a reflection of that person.
welcome
But
to the
sort of,
internet.
welcome to the internet. The thing I find the hardest is sort of the, "Oh, I don't like cello." Like, okay, that's that's totally fine.
It's like going to
But
an Italian
why?
restaurant, you don't like pasta, like,
I know,
that's fine,
it's just
but
knocking on the door and sticking your head in the pizza restaurant and going, "Just want to let everyone know I don't like pizza," and then carry
yes.
on your way. I just find that so bizarre. Or
Yeah.
sometimes I get sort of long emails with people sort of ranting about why they don't like my music or something I've said, and I just, that side of thing has totally taken me by surprise.
Well, I
Sorry,
mean,
I've gone on a total tangent, which is very self-indulgent, and
no, I don't think it is, because I think, you know, it's I I'm a representative of an audience here, right? Like, that's the bit that I come at this conversation from. I listen. I don't create music. And I think getting to know the people behind your music, I mean, it can be awful, actually, like where you
yeah,
realize that, God, that album, and then you realize the guy's a total douche.
I know
Um,
that's such a
yeah,
disappointment.
it's just sort of pretend you don't know, or you can't. But we want to know. We want to know who
Yeah,
you are. And I think particularly because there have been some great comments, but your music does feel so raw and real and visceral and of you that you can't help. You know, there's almost like it almost feels voyeuristic. Like, you know, you shouldn't give too much, obviously. And I know you know that, but we want to know where it comes from. We want to know what's going on. And I think one of the beautiful things is where you can see through somebody's musical career, like the healing, where you
yeah.
start to see them writing really happy songs, you know? Yeah.
Well, I've just written a song that's full of rage,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm not sure how far I am down that journey.
Yeah. He
Uh,
sailed back to home to be loved is the name of the yeah.
um, yeah, it's so interesting, the whole journey, isn't it? I've got a new song coming out tomorrow, which I love musically, but it's written about an experience of somebody else, and it's far less dangerous to me from this exact point of view. Whereas the other songs that I've got coming out over the next few months are really like of of my soul, and I'm quite nervous about letting them out into the wild.
Yeah. I suppose it's, but then that I mean, you've given the game away now, but that's
Yeah,
also, that's part of the beauty of writing music is we don't know that
yeah,
it's necessarily about you. It could
yeah,
be about
yeah,
a grandparent. It could be about your
yeah,
mate down the road. It could be
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
But, there's a I mean, I'm gonna say I think we should probably start to draw this to a close because we
yeah,
promised to do it for 30 minutes, but people keep joining.
yeah.
Um, but I wanna just quick random questions, because they're easy to answer. My cello teacher tells me that singing while playing cello is extremely difficult. Do you have sheet music?
I don't have sheet music. I tend to not write it out apart from little sections that I can't remember. So no, I often think about it, writing it down, so that other people could play it, but I just never find the time. Sorry.
Yeah. But you do use, again, you tell me, because when you
Yeah.
did your little, I don't know if it's a secret, but you did your little mini, Antarctic performance to a
Yeah.
tiny tent of
Yeah.
people, you had an iPad in front of you with something on it, right?
Yeah, with my lyrics, because I forget. I think I'm the only person I know that can't remember their own lyrics. It's not possible for me to get to the top to the bottom of one of my own songs without forgetting my lyrics unless they're written down in front of me. The music I can remember. So, um, I I I write bits of uh, the cello part out or the cello parts out if I want to play them in a particular way and I'm forgetting them, but otherwise I don't tend to write it out on manuscript.
Yeah. Well, new music coming soon. You heard it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
There's two little comments we can end on, I think.
Yeah.
Somebody very is feeding both of us exactly what we need at the end.
Yeah.
Please can we do this again someday. It's been a lovely conversation. I think the answer is almost certainly yes.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be lovely.
Plan it better next time.
We should plan it better next time.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I feel like I have rambled on a bit. I hope that's okay. I'm utterly delighted that so many people have wanted to come, and that's great. I think we were both expecting to just chat to each other.
well, I knew Emma was coming, so I thought maybe
Yeah,
we'd
okay.
now chat with her instead.
Yeah.
um, Somebody said, which I think, no, well, first, if people don't know where to listen, where can they listen?
Um, I'm on Spotify and all streaming platforms, and my band is called Swallows and Crows. I call it a band. It's really just me and people I can recruit in the short term. I play with a violinist occasionally from Ireland, and various friends and stuff I get to help with recordings. But yeah, Swallows and Crows. Anywhere you usually listen to music, I'll be there.
Yeah. And I think the way to end this for me is a comment above. I assume it almost has to be related to conversations about vulnerability, music from your soul, and therapy. They said, rip the band-aid off. They will be incredible. I think I agree.
Thank you. And Matt, we've not really talked about you at all, which is terrible.
No, that's no.
And
I
where would
like
we find
I like
you? And
like
go do you? Yeah. Well, maybe
yeah.
we should do that. Maybe we should do another one, and then I can ask you awkward questions, and you can squirm and answer, and
Oh well,
everyone would like that.
we've disagreed on our views on therapy. I don't squirm at awkward questions because
Oh,
I've
do you
had
not?
therapy.
Okay.
Right, we'll leave it there.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your lovely comments. And yeah, we should definitely do it again.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Take
Right.
care. Bye,
See
everyone.
you soon. Bye.